welcome back to another D&D video. But now this one's gonna be different. It's not gonna be tips today. Nope. Today I'm gonna be telling a story that will have a little bit of a sprinkle in of tips in it. Don't worry about that. I will be telling you. This story does have a meaning to you. It's not gonna just be me explaining my cool moments. No, this actually has a meaning to you. And hopefully I can get that meaning across through my story. The other day I'm going to be talking about my first campaign and its final boss. And the final boss's name was Uthros. Now Uthros was I think ancient was the oldest one. Ancient old red dragon whose head by itself was, I think, about 60 feet tall, if I can remember correctly. So he was a giant dragon. He was the king. He was like the king of all dragons and Dragonborn and all the dragon people. And he was having war against the humans, and because they actually were taking control of the dragons, and they were using the dragons as slaves, kind of. And Uthros saw this as an opportunity to gain power, because red dragons like gain a lot of power. So he did that, and he had the other dragons help him try to make a potion of immortality. This potion of immortality would not actually make you immortal, but for him it would have gave him about 9,000 health and 500 regen every turn. So it pretty much made you immortal. Now, of course, after hearing this, the heroes and the rest of the humans went to his base and tried to stop him. And this will be the final boss, the fight that they had to do. They had to do, I think, like 2 other boss fights before then. They do a boss fight against one of his guys who actually joined the side. They were able to make him join the side. And another guy who after having a large fight in hell, because it's a big story. I'll talk about that later. Actually, I'll talk about it in a different video. But after having a big fight in hell, they came back and were friends too. So they were able to make both those bosses their friends, which I think was actually a pretty smart move by them. But nevertheless, they entered his lair, and his lair kind of made himself a makeshift cave lair, and you can just see him come out. You just see his face, and that's when the battle started. Actually, that's not when the battle started. The battle started when one of the players challenged Uthros to an arm wrestling competition. Yeah, you heard me correctly. He challenged him to arm wrestling because he had a really good strength. So they both, because he had abdominal strength, so his strength automatically went to the max roll. So they went into an arm wrestle, and they both got natural 20s. Actually, no, that's not what happened first. What happened first, they did both get natural 20s, but that happened after he tricked them and trying to make everyone else go on fire. He tried to fire breath the rest of the party when they weren't looking, and yeah. So after that, he distracted him with the arm wrestle, the guy who challenged him, and the others were able to sneak past him. And they sneaked past him to find the potion at the other side that was currently getting its final completion. You could hear that the potion was done. You could hear the potion like rumble, so you could know everyone knew it was done, because just needed a few more souls that were being transferred to it, and then they just heard this big giant burst, and the potion was finished. So Uthros obviously tried to go back to it, and he just kind of ignored everyone else's that doing damage to him. They kind of hit one of his eyes and took out one of his eyes, but he kept going. He had a lot of health, so he could just tank it all. And in the back, the people in the back were actually trying to defeat everyone that was guarding the potion. And thanks to them actually befriending one of the bosses, they were able to make half the people back there not fight them. So that was a really good thing for them. The other half still fought him, and what they did is that they were trying to destroy it, but they had an interesting way of destroying it. One thing they did is that they threw I gave them instant trees. If you don't know what instant trees are, well, you shouldn't because they're not a thing, but they're an item made up where a tree instantly grows once it's smashed from the thing, which they actually were able to use to kill a few people, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with them killing a few people with it because it's kind of nice. But you're gonna see here, so they threw an instant tree in it. They tried to smash it, but they threw it in there and it didn't grow instantly, but it slowly took in all the potion, because they threw it into the potion of immortality. So, it was taking its time to start growing. But around the point after that happened, Uthros came to the back, yelled at all of them that he was going to kill them right there if he didn't just let them take the potion. They tried to stop him, but he kind of just immediately went to chuck the entire potion. And before that, the guy that was fighting him before, actually, I'll tell you his name. The guy who was fighting him before was Phoenix, the guy who arm wrestled him. That's what he called his character. And Phoenix actually used Misty Step as soon as he could to get into the potion. And he got inside the potion when it was being drunk. And he was inside the mouth as it was being drunk. And once the potion's effects started happening, you became paralyzed. And, you know, he fell in the potion, so obviously the potion started getting effects on him, so he was becoming paralyzed. So not only did he drink the potion by accident, but now he was getting paralyzed, could only do one thing inside of the mouth of Uthros. So what he did was he went to the uvia, you know what I'm talking, the big dangly thing in the mouth. He's like, she just punched right into it, made him throw up all of the potion. Because of a amazing roll by Phoenix, the only thing left in the mouth of Uthros was the instant tree that had been covered for about 5 minutes in this potion. And after Uthros closed his mouth, the tree actually started growing inside of his skull, and like went out of his eye, so completely went up through his brain into the sky. And that's when Uthros died. And it was pretty dramatic, actually. It was really dramatic. And after that point, the tree just kept growing, and actually the tree still survives to this day. Because that tree is now an immortal tree that it's pretty much can't get destroyed ever. Because it just soaked in that potion for 5 minutes, and now it's going to be growing forever. So that might be a bit of a problem for eventually one of my campaigns. But hey, it's interesting, isn't it? You might be asking me, well, that's all good and dandy, but what can I actually learn from your story here? Well, this thing you can learn from this story is, my final boss fight. Would I call this a perfect final boss fight? No, not at all. I think there's a lot of things I could have better. I could have made Uthros have more interesting things, because of course dragons aren't that interesting. I could have justified him a bit to make him a more interesting boss. Like I said in my boss fight video, I didn't really do that. I just kind of made him have a lot of swings and attacks. I didn't really make him do anything that interesting like I wish I did. But you know, whatever. But a lot of interesting things did happen. The characters kind of made up for themselves, which I'm happy for. Because, for example, one of the characters went into the guy's ass. Went into the dragon's ass and started slicing in there. So he was having internal bleeding from the ass. An eye cut out as he was walking back to the potion. So he wasn't having a good time. And the characters, sorry about that. That water sound, but the characters kind of made up all for the boring boss fight that I did, so I'm happy for that. But what I think you can take away from this boss fight is the PCs didn't really kill him traditionally. They didn't really fight him to the death, and the thing is, they probably couldn't have killed him. You know. Like, I didn't make it so they could kill him. You know, this guy was the most powerful dragon of them all, so obviously I made him the most powerful dragon of them all. So actually, there wasn't much of a chance to kill him. They knew this was a suicide mission. So they were just trying to destroy the potion so that, you know, he couldn't drink it. That was the only reason they got back there, and then they wouldn't care if they died. Except one other character who I'll talk about in a different video. But because of them throwing that instant tree in there, when they had no idea why they would do it, they're able to kill them. And of course, most of them would have died except the guy who drank the potion if that didn't happen. And if the Phoenix actually I think he got a natural 20 when trying to hit the uvia and trying to get all the potion out. So, you know, if Phoenix didn't get that natural 20, if they didn't put that seed in there, they wouldn't have killed him. And there was no way they could have killed him with their damage output. So do I think it was a stretch to make this a way of killing them, making this a way of them succeeding? No. Because, for one, the only reason they really were able to do this was because they befriended one of the bosses. But from before, when they had to befriend the first boss, and make it so half the enemies won't attack them, so they actually could think through this and not just keep attacking them until the dragon came. And two, they had to think of putting the seed in there. When really they didn't. They even told me they didn't really have an idea why they were doing it, but they put the seed in there. You know, they tried to soak up the potion or something. Or destroy the thing that was holding it. So they did that little thing that they didn't even know was a big impact or anything. And then the guy got a natural 20. So after them perfectly playing through this, making everything go exactly to a plan that they even know was happening, I don't think it's a stretch to give them that win. Now, if they didn't get the boss to friend them from before, do I think that wouldn't have happened? Of course I do. If they didn't throw that seed in there, do I think that would not have happened? Of course I do. And if that guy didn't get a natural 20, do I think that not would have happened? Of course I do. But you see, that's the thing. Now, there's one thing I'd like to say about myself back then is that I might have tried to make a way from the win, which is a terrible thing to do. Never try to make there be a way for the PCs the win. If there isn't a way to win, if they put themselves in an impossible win situation, they know it, then make it so it's an impossible win situation. I think, you know, make it so that if they want to survive, they have to do some outrageous thing like this, and just be able to survive. But of course not, don't do this all the time. Like, for a final boss fight, of course do this, but don't do this for like a midway boss throughout the adventure, because that's kind of a ridiculous thing to do. For a final boss, making it so, you know, they have to get to a slim chance to be able to win against him and survive. I think that's fair enough, you know? Just a slim chance of them surviving is fair enough. And it makes it even more satisfying after they finish that fight and after they are able to win. You know, it makes satisfying to win that fight, you know what I mean? So take away from this what you would, okay? Like, for final bosses, I would definitely, by the way, for my last video on Dming tips, if you're going to have a final boss, don't be scared to make it ×3 the player's health or ×4, you know, if you really want to make it a really hard boss. But other than that, take away from this what you would, you know? I think making final bosses almost impossible is fair enough, okay? Final bosses are not something you always have to have a way of winning, because you know you have high expectations for this boss. If you're running straight in and trying to fight them head on, and you know that they're all very, very powerful, then I think it's fair enough that you die from that. You know, if you're gonna run straight in and think that you can just survive without any impact or without a high risk of dying, then it's your fault if you die. But if you're able to think through it like they did, even though they didn't even know they were thinking through it, able to get at boss from before, join them, able to make all these slim chances for them to join and have such a perfect way of defeating the boss, I say, why not? You know, they went through so much. They went through so much hard work to try to get to this point where they can defeat the boss. So why don't I give it to them? Why don't you give it to them? You know, if they go through all this hard work just to survive, and, you know, it ends out looking like it's gonna work out, well, make it work out, you know? If they, like, half-ass the drop, I don't blame you if you make a little bit of a change to make it a little bit harder, but if they had to work really, really hard to get to where they are, then why can't it work out? I think it's fair enough to say that it works out. But in that time, no players died, but that does not mean no players died in the end. And that will be my next Dming story video on what I mean by that. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, and that's pretty much all. See ya in the next one. Goodbye.